There we go. I'm not sure what that was, but anyway, all right. So for those who don't understand what a 1031 exchange is, oftentimes, like I said, people will Google what a 1031 exchange is blanketly throughout just the internet. And this is the verbatim definition of what a 1031 exchange is. It's a section of the U.S. Internal Revenue Code that allows investors to defer capital gains tax on an exchange of like-kind properties held for business or investment purposes. Now, this is very important. That last part is business or investment purposes, because often people give us a call and they'll say, hey, I'm selling my home and I know I'm going to have capital gains tax. I need to do a 1031 exchange. And we have to, unfortunately, turn those clients away. Like, hey, we don't do residential real estate that is your primary residence. 1031 exchange is specifically held for properties held for business or investment. So this is all your investment properties. So to any one of you guys out there who are wondering, can this work for my home? It doesn't. The specific rule that works for your home is what's called a 121 homeowner's exemption. And we're not going to get too into that, but a 121 homeowner's exemption is basically a tax exemption. With 1031, you're just kind of deferring it, pushing it off, pushing it off. But 121, it's basically an exemption where whatever capital gains tax you have, well, I shouldn't say whatever. The way the rules are written is if you lived in the property 2 out of the last 5 years, then you're going to be completely exempt for up to $250,000 worth of capital gains if you're single, and then $500 worth of capital gains if you're married. All you have to do is live in the property 2 out of the last 5 years, and this specifically pertains to your primary residence, your home, where you live and watch your Netflix. You know, your family lives there. But if you have a property that you use for business or investment, you work in there, you rent it out, you know, you bought a plot of raw land because you knew it would appreciate in value, then that is what a 1031 exchange is specifically for. So once you understand that, then you qualify. And we're going to get into that. This is the general example I like to use for why a 1031 exchange is so important. Because the common thing, especially in major metropolitan cities, let's say like San Diego, if you purchased a piece of property about 10 years ago, anywhere near downtown San Diego, and let's say you paid $100K for it, if you try to sell it now, it's probably worth $1 million, and everybody's excited because that's 900,000. You only put in 100,000, you sell for $1 million. That is a ridiculous profit. But what most people don't realize is at the point of sale, it is the most critical point because that is a taxable event. When your name is taken off title, when you're about to sell and you're about to close escrow, that means a buyer is going to hand you money. And in return, you need to hand them that property by giving them the title report, taking your name off there, putting their name on. Once your name comes on, it's just like the rapture. Between state tax, federal tax, what's called your depreciation capture tax, a number of taxes kick in. And if it's in California or New York, you're looking at a blended average of roughly 30 to 33%. So for all you guys, that in this example, that's 320,000. It's a lot. You only invested 100K, you sell at $1 million, you're happy for the 900K, but that's 320,000, folks. So for all of you guys who are thinking of doing a 1031, just do this. What did you buy it at? What are you selling it at? Subtract that. That is called your profit. Take 33% of that. That is what you have to pay. And I always tell clients who are on the fence, it's simple like this. You can either pay your taxes, whatever number that is, or do an exchange, which is exceedingly lower. And you can keep all of that money. So this is why we take the time to explain the importance of a 1031 exchange. Now, the way the process works is everybody always asks, and I want to repeat, please ask questions. Pretend it's just me and you, one-to-one, sitting here, ask questions, because I don't want to just say this information to say it. It's I feel people take the time to register these things to actually learn something that could benefit them. So if you have questions, if you have a possible exchange, you're currently selling, the property is listed, it's in escrow, but if it's in escrow, call us immediately. But if you're thinking of selling and you're not sure how it works, ask any questions now. This is your time, okay? Anyway, the way the property process works is, okay, you want to sell your property, the first thing you do is you list it. Now, a lot of people here, do I have to put any special language into that listing contract or whatever? You don't have to, but it's just an etiquette. You can put a notice which the buyer acknowledges that this transaction is part of a 1031 exchange and a buyer agrees to cooperate. Doesn't hold them hostage to anything. It's just putting it out there like, hey, I'm doing a 1031 exchange. I may not be sure how it works. So in case we have some changes, I would hope you cooperate. It's just a form of etiquette, but not a requirement. Now, this is the biggest thing because a rule in 1031 exchange is like the entire purpose of us. We're called qualified intermediaries or an accommodator. And a lot of people think that when they do escrow, because escrow kind of calls us and handles everything, that escrow or title is the one doing your 1031 exchange. But the way the rule is written is no party to the transaction can be part of the 1031 exchange. Your title, your agent, anybody who has a vested interest. Your escrow has a vested interest. They're going to collect their fees. Title has a vested interest. They're trying to work for you. We are what's considered a neutral third party. So the moment you open escrow, you need to look at it as, okay, I need to open my exchange account, which is a simple call letting us know, this is my escrow company, this is the property address. Done. That's simple. It's not some crazy process you have to get notarized. It's just call us, let us know who you're opening escrow with, give us a property address, and our team steps in. Simple as that. So when you open escrow, that's when you need to open your exchange account. Because a lot of people call like, do I have to do it when I'm listing, when I'm thinking of listing? Definitely don't do it at closing, because if escrow closes and the client received the funds, that's when the taxable event truly occurs, because the client can never have constructive access, receipt of the funds, meaning they can't have any access to it, any possible access to it. Those funds have to go to us. We hold them until the client tells us what property they're going to reinvest into. Now, as soon as escrow closes, that's kind of when the client needs to start working, where they need to ID their new property, and then they need to start the process of acquiring that real estate. But prior to that, it's just us doing an enormous amount of paperwork, which can be stressful, but that's okay. Now, these are the basics we're going to go over today, is what properties qualify, how do I defer all of my taxes, how long to ID, and what is the timeline, which probably number 3 is the most important part, telling you. Number 1, we already covered, but I'll reiterate it again. The properties that qualify for a 1031 exchange are properties held for business or investment. And I always like to use this example, like you have the same house. That house could be your home. You live in there. It does not qualify. But if you purchase that same home, you do not live in there, you let somebody else live in there, they pay you money for it. That means that real estate is being utilized for business or investment purposes. And the focus of this is, what is your intent? Like, that's really it. Like, did you intend to buy for your home, or did you intend to buy to make money off it? And if it's the latter, then the property qualifies. Now, let me see. How many people here has heard this term, like kind? Let me see. Let me check in this area who is conscious. I can ramble on for days and extremely good at it. Hey, Kevin, thank you for that. There we go. Like kind. A lot of people, though, think like kind is a limiting term. Like, okay, if I have a 3-unit building, that means I have to exchange into another 3-unit building or a single structure. It's not the case. You can go from a 3-unit building, 3-unit building to an office space to a plot of raw land, or raw land to a 60-unit complex. Just as long as this is like kind. Are you still using this real estate for business or investment? So you can't go from a property, a 3-unit building, to your home. Huh? That's not like kind. Like kind is simply, are you utilizing it for the same intent, business or investment purposes? So you can go from 3-unit to raw land to office space, just as long as you're still utilizing it for the same intent. Are you going to make money off of this? Is this an investment? Are you conducting business in here? Because a lot of you guys try to do this and you go to your home, like, oh, I'm going to sell this beautiful rental property and buy a mansion. Doesn't work. Okay. Now, this is how this works. This is the second rule. The first rule is what properties qualify, properties that are held for business or investment purposes. Now, this rule in particular, though, this is the rule that pops up March 15th when you talk to your CPA and they're like, oh my God, I have all these taxes. I always encourage people, if you're selling a piece of real estate, speak to your CPA before you sell, not after. Before you sell, you will get guidance like, hey, this is how much capital gains you had. Like the example we used, you bought it at 100, you're selling at $1 million. That's 900 profit. Congratulations. But the moment you sell and your name is off title, that's taxes get triggered up roughly 30 to 33%. And 30 to 33% of 900,000 is 320,000 in taxes. It's a lot of money, significant amount of money. But if you talk to your CPA before and they give you a recommendation to call Growth 1031, then we tell you, hey, we're going to facilitate this. I just want you to keep two things in mind. When you sell this property, just know you're going to have to reinvest all of your funds into a new property at equal or greater in value. And let's dig into that a bit. The focus is what's called your net sales price. And this is everything outside of your non-reoccurring closing costs. Focus on that. Net sales price. Everything after your non-reoccurring closing costs. You have to reinvest all of the cash into a new property at equal or greater in value of your net sales price, not your sales price. Your sales price would be $500,000. But at closing, let's say you're going to incur title fees, attorney's fees, escrow fees. And after that, let's say after all those little fees, let's say you're at $450. $450 is the benchmark you need to hit to defer 100% of your capital gains tax. Simple. Now, if you fall short, that's okay. You just pay taxes on the amount you fall short, but to defer 100% of it, you need to purchase at $450. That's your net sales price. No, your mortgage that you pay off, you've been paying that monthly, haven't you? Then that means it's reoccurring. This is specifically for all the fees that trigger at closing, not any reoccurring fees. So people always ask, well, what if I don't reinvest all of the cash? Remember, we said we ended up at $450. Great. Well, $450 will be completely tax deferred. I mean, we ended up at $450. So we ended up at $450, but we only purchased at $400. $400 will be completely tax deferred, but the $50,000 that you fall short, you pay taxes on. Does that make sense? Any questions? You guys are either extremely intelligent or whatever. Anyway, people always ask this question, do I have to replace my debt? And that is a yes, because think about this. You sell a property at $450, but commonly people have a mortgage to pay. So let's say it's $200,000. You sell at $450 and you pay off $200,000, meaning you only have $250 left. The rule still stands. You need to purchase at equal or greater in value. So if you ended up at $450 after all your closing costs, regardless, the loan is not come into play. You need to purchase at $450. So typically people will have to get a new loan, which is debt, but it's not a requirement. You can add money, out of pocket, ask your mama, whatever you want. But if you're at $450, even if you have to pay off a mortgage and you only have $250, you need to buy a new property at $450 because that's your net sales price. And then people always ask, well, can I purchase multiple properties? And that's a big thing because a lot of people are selling in California and going to smaller states like Texas, Miami. If one more client tells me they're selling and then I'm moving to Miami, I'm just going to be like, you know what, I'm coming. I'm coming. Obviously, there's a party on there. But the fact is, so many properties are a lot less outside of California. So if you sell a single structure in California for $1 million, you can go and buy two $500,000 properties in Miami with great returns, by the way, because everybody's flooding there. So occupancy is great. So the first rule is, does the property qualify? Yes, if it's held for business or investment purposes. The second rule is, how do you defer all of your taxes? Simple. When you sell your property, you need to reinvest all of the funds into a new property equal to greater in value. Now, this is the third rule that's pretty much terrorizing people because there's an inventory issue, financing is a headache, all this stuff. At the close of escrow, you're going to have 45 days to identify or replace your property. That's identification. Okay, that's 45 calendar days, business days, Christmas, Hanukkah, hangover days. And it must be in writing and unambiguous. By that, you just can't say, hey, I'm getting a property downtown. Downtown where? Give us a specific address, someplace we can allocate values. Now, what we do is provide a RPI, which is a client replacement identification form. It just has an address, a price, and a signature block. That's all you need. You don't need to be under contract. You don't have to be under escrow. Like literally, don't Google an address with CoStar, LoopNet, whatever. but just know those are the properties that you're going to have to acquire. And then people ask, no, well, like I said, people don't have to make an offer. They don't have to be under contract. And as a last resort, we will accept an email like you don't have our RPI, like, hey, Lance, I am identifying this property as my replacement property. Here's the address as it relates to the relinquish of my other address of the property you just sold. Sign the RPI. Very easy. Address, price, sign. Done. Any questions? I'm too nervous when people, either you guys are extremely smart or, oh, there's something. I never knew we had a Q&A box. Most people type in the chat box. Kevin, you found the Q&A box. I appreciate that. Anyway, does a new purchase have to be one of 3 identified properties? Or if you happen to discover another property after the 45-day window, do you then just need to close before 180-day limit? That was a bit of a convoluted question. Does the new property have to be one of the 3 identified properties? Or if you happen to discover another property after the 45-day window. Okay, you know what, Kevin, I feel like you're mixing 2 points. So let me do this. I'm going to go through these next 2 slides, and then I'm going to see if that answers your question. So let's definitely do that. Okay, so when you're talking about identification, there's 2 ways. I think that's what you're alluding to. The first one, and the most common one, is a 3 property. And under this rule, you can identify 3 properties, and it doesn't matter how expensive. So remember, we keep using that same example. We're at 450, we sold at 500, net sales price 450. You can identify properties 4 million, 10 million, but you can only identify 3, okay? And what I always tell people is identify 3. On those 3. Why? Because financing issues, title issues, escrow, buyer backs out. So you want to have backups, because after your 45-day, alluding to your other point, Kevin, you can't identify anything. You can identify different properties within your 45 days. It's day 10, you're like, I don't want these, retract those, put another 3. Day 20, I don't want these, retract those, put another 3. But by day 45, you are stuck with your last identification. Now, did that answer your question? Yes. That answer? Hey, perfect. All right. Now, like I said, 3 property rule is the most common, but I've been seeing a lot of this rule right here. This is the other way. If 3 properties are not enough, then basically anything over 3, then you are in what's called a 200% rule. Now, under this rule, if 3 isn't enough, great. You can, under this rule, as the rule reads, you can identify an unlimited number of properties, provided that the aggregated sum does not exceed 200% of your initial sales price. So let's do a quick heartbeat pulse check to see if you guys are breathing. A lot of human beings on here. So under this rule, if I sell a property for $1 million, yet I can only purchase in increments of 400,000. How many properties can I purchase before I violate this rule? Giving you guys 10 seconds to answer. Go. Do it in the chat, because question and answer, I don't know, it's in an awkward position. So under this rule, you can identify unlimited properties provided that the aggregated sum does not exceed 200% of your initial sales price. So if I'm selling for $1 million and I can only purchase in increments of 400,000, how many properties can I purchase before I violate this rule? 7. No. 10? Jesus, no. There it is. See that? Oh, the chat is this. I don't know why that is. Oh, God. I've been having like nightmares. 5 properties is the answer. Gonna fix all this technical difficulties. Correct, because 5 times 400,000 is 2 million, and 2 million is 200% of 1 million. So basically, if you 3 properties are not enough, You go to the 200% rule and identify as many as you want, but basically the total amount of the properties that you identify can't be double, okay? Now, this rule is tough because, like I said, this is a very hard line rule, man. If you, midnight on the 45th day, you are done. So people always ask, well, how do I get around this? What if I want a different property after day 45? My friend, you are SOL. You're going to end up paying your taxes. Straight to the point. What if I want to backdate my ID? Like it's day 46, but you click day 45. Considered fraud. I'd like to stay out of jail. I always tell people, communicate with your buyers. Just simple as that. Because when does the 45-day rule start? Anybody, give me a response. When does the 45-day rule start? Anybody's been listening. When does it start? The moment escrow closes. So, nice job. If you want more time in your 45-day, I say this. Play with your escrow period. Play some contingencies in your agreement. As soon as you get that purchase contract, don't just, 30-day escrow, blah, blah. Play some contingencies in there. Hey, I'm in a 1031 exchange. Listen, now that we're in a contract, escrow is going to handle everything. My QI is going to handle everything. I'm going to go look for properties. But should I not find properties, anything, and it's close to close of escrow, I'm going to need 10 more days. 20 more days, automatic triggers you can place in there. Just agree to it. People really want property. Trust me. Little things like, hey, I'm going to need more time if I can't basically shelter myself from 33% taxes. And they're going to be willing to agree to it. It's a small caveat, but place those in your contract. To you real estate agents in there, put those in the client's contracts. It's very helpful, okay? Because the number one reason exchanges fail is because of the inability to identify properties. It's not a lot of time. 45 days is not a lot of time to find the property that you want to reinvest into, call your own. Your only other option is if there's a presidential disaster declaration with a property. So that's like Hurricane Katrina, COVID. Don't wait for a state of emergency to get more time in your 1031. Speak to your buyer, place some contingencies in there. Let me check. Okay. Now, the last and final rule is at the close of escrow, concurrently, not I got 45 days, then I have 180 concurrently. The other timeline that kicks in is your 180-day rule. So, you know, when your name gets off title, it starts in order to, you have 180 days to get your name on the title to wrap this whole thing up. Okay, close of escrow, 180 calendar days. Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Easter, and all others. So with quick review, the properties that qualify for 1031 exchange are properties that are held for business or investment purposes, okay? It's as simple as this. Like, you find out how much you purchased your property, find out how much you're going to sell it, subtract that, that's your profit. You're going to have to pay 33% of that for your capital gains tax. It's a lot. But in order to defer all of that, you're going to have to reinvest all of your cash into a new property at equal or greater in value. At the close of escrow, you're going to have 45 days to identify a replacement property. That is 45 calendar days, okay? That is Hanukkah, New Year's, 45 days, and it's not a lot. So, like I try to tell people, really try your best and play with your escrow because it's not a lot of time. And for the entire transaction, you have 180 days. So that's about 6 months. We're not going to get into the complex exchanges today. We're going to keep it simple today. What I'm going to do is we're going to review reverse exchanges, which is when you purchase first and then you can sell after for our next webinar, which is, it will be in 2 weeks. And I'm also going to talk about construction exchange, where when you sell, you can build or improve on the property with the funds from selling. We're going to review those. But if you guys walk away with nothing else, if any of you guys are listing property, this is a necessity. It's kind of like one of those, seems like an administrative thing that escrow handles for you, but it really doesn't work like that. You have to be proactive, have a good agent that understands this. Even when you have a good agent, you know, have a good QI. We've been doing this for years. Not too many QIs actually come from the lead. So many of them are title people that I want to open a QI. I went to law school to study business and trust and business associations. So you're going to need somebody to navigate some of the difficulties that sometimes happen, especially when dealing with title issues. But with us, we try to be just, like I said, we're a support team. You follow me on Instagram, everybody thinks I'm having a blast, but the truth is, I am constantly in this office working and fielding questions, and I don't mind it. I get to talk about something that I spent a lot of time studying, so it's a benefit. So any questions you guys have, always give us a call. Let me put this up there so you guys have it. Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Oh, there we go. Our number is very simple. It's 619-991-1031, or you can email us at info@growth1031. So give us a call anytime. I'm going to make sure I follow up with a call after this shortly. And thank you guys for taking the time out. And if you guys need any more information, please don't hesitate to give us a ring.